Welcome to Cinemagna. In today's video, the stars align on the Los Angeles red carpet for the premiere of Roofman. Cinemagna takes you beyond the velvet ropes as the stars arrive, bringing you exclusive interviews with the cast and crew. Get ready for an evening of elegance, glamour, and insights as we chat with the stars and creators behind the film. It's a front row seat to the dazzling spectacle and the people who make it all happen. Based on an unbelievable true story, Roofman follows Jeffrey Manchester, played by Channing Tatum, a former Army Ranger and struggling father who turns to robbing McDonald's restaurants by cutting holes in their roofs, earning him the nickname Roofman. After escaping prison, he secretly lives inside a Toys-R-Us for 6 months, surviving undetected while planning his next move. But when he falls for Leigh, played by Kirsten Dunst, a divorced mom drawn to his undeniable charm, his double life begins to unravel, setting off a compelling and suspenseful game of cat and mouse as his past closes in. The movie is starring Channing Tatum, Kirsten Dunst, Ben Mendelsohn, LaKeith Stanfield, Juno Temple, Melonie Diaz, 𝗗𝗟𝗦 Lily Collias, Jimmy O. Yang, and Peter Dinklage. Directed by �11𝗗𝗏𝗏. Produced by Jamie Patricoff, Lynette Howell-Taylor, Alex Orlovsky, Duncan Montgomery, Dylan Sellers. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel to be notified when new videos are released.
You know, Jeff is a absolutely extraordinary human. Like, I know that, yes, he's done wrong things, but I don't know who hasn't exactly. I love playing characters, and I love characters in general in life. I love giving those people understanding, giving them grace and trying to understand how they made those bad decisions and why they made them. And I got to talk to Jeffrey a lot, and I just found myself I just really liked him. I really liked him as a human. He's been incarcerated for a very, very long time, and he still has warmth and optimism. And I don't know, I got him on a lot of levels that I could talk on and on and on about him. And I hope we did him justice. You know, this movie is very funny, but it also has a giant heart to it. And it's going to pull on the heartstrings as well. 𝗟𝗟𝗏𝗏 is I would have done anything with him. I didn't care what he sent me. I'd have done Crafty. I'd have done an extra role. I'm just such a fan of his movies. And you can't really, it's just a Derek movie. It's like a 𝗟𝗟𝗏𝗏 movie. The tone is so specific, and it's just his tone. I don't know how to describe it to you. I think he's the true magic of this film. I mean, he could have went in any single direction with this, in another director's hands. You just don't know what it had turned into. And he gave it so much care, so much love, so much humor, but also so much real. I think, he didn't just there's a guy that camps out or, hides in a toy store. Let's make it some big slapstick comedy. He really cared about these individuals that really experienced this, and I think he did him a lot of justice. Kirsten, though, she's the heart of the movie. We didn't get to meet until we walked on screen together, and as soon as we locked eyes, we were just like, oh, this is going to be fun. This is going to be nice. Kirsten she can't not be honest. She is exactly who she is, and you cannot change her. She's warm, she's smart, she will hold you to what you say. She does not suffer fools, and I love her to death.
My producer, Jamie Patricoff, told me the story about Jeffrey Manchester, the Roofman, and I'd been looking to make a movie that reminded me of the movies that I grew up with in the 80s and 90s, movies that kind of showed the possibility of movies. And I heard this story about this guy who robbed 45 McDonald's but made sure everyone had a jacket before he put them in the freezer, and then he went to prison, and then when he escaped prison, instead of escaping to the woods or something, he escaped to a toy store. And I thought there was a lot of contradictions in his character, so I started talking to the real guy, Jeff Manchester. I had hundreds of phone calls with him over the years, tried to talk to everyone in his life and just make a portrait of this man who was making these huge bad decisions, and this kind of community that met him with huge forgiveness and grace. And I thought it was I thought it could be a fun movie to make, take the audience on a real ride. Well, I think Jeffrey himself loved movies so much, and I think when he was living his life and making all these crazy decisions, I think he was imagining that he was the protagonist in his own movie. And he's kind of a fascinating screenwriter in that way. I think he made a movie, he lived a life that was worthy of a movie. I mean, the things he did were so crazy, but he had big dreams and a big hope to try to take care of a family, and that's really what's at the heart of this movie. It's a man who's making all these crazy decisions because he's trying to be a provider, trying to be a father, and to me, it's a great combination of comedy and also tragedy. I mean, it's a dream cast. I've been wanting to work with Channing Tatum for 20 years. I think he's just one of the best actors out there. I think he can do anything. I think he can do love stories. I think he can do dramas. I think he can do action. I think he can do comedy. And one of the things I wanted to do with Roofman is kind of put him in like a dream role for him where he could show all those sides of himself and be kind of like the full movie star that he is. And then Kirsten Dunst has been I've been just a fan. We all are a fan of her. She's a living legend, one of our great American actors, and it was just a dream to work with her. And everyone else in the film was like, I'm blessed. I worked with casting director Bonnie Timmerman, who's a legend in the business too, and we just put together basically my dream cast, and everyone said yes, and we had just a ball together on set. And I think you can feel it in the movie. I think you can feel how warm and fun, how much fun everyone had making this movie.
I was actually one of the first people who heard about the story. So I heard about the story. I instantly knew that it would be perfect for Derek. I'd produced all of his other projects, and I shared it with him, the script and the idea, and he said, I love the story, I love the idea. I now just want to start over, and I want to start talking to the real Jeff Manchester and figure out what this movie is, and that's beginning 5 years ago. Derek's entire style of work is about trying to find the truth in things. And I think, so when you found something like Roofman, and when it was a true story, I think the idea that he was going to get to the sort of core of the story and the characters and the places, and then create a world that these actors could inhabit, and they could learn the nuances of these characters and of Jeff's story, but then also bring what Derek brings, which is that sort of just unknown, sort of intangible qualities of getting the best out of people. And whether that's the actors, or that's the catering department, or that's the PAs. He's able to pull out something special from everybody, and that's what you see up on the screen. You have to pinch yourself when you start talking about this cast. I mean, the idea that we were able to make a movie with Channing Tatum, that was what we started with, and that was as good as it gets. And then we got Kirsten Dunst, so it's like, oh my God, amazing, we got her. And then you get Aduba, you get Ben Mendelsohn, you get Peter Dinklage, Jimmy O Yang, LaKeith Stanfield, just goes on. And that was all about Derek, and it was just finding the perfect people. It wasn't who the most famous person was. Who's the person who's going to embody the characters that are in this movie? Juno Temple. It's just like extraordinary. I'm so blessed and lucky to get to work with them, and I'm never going to forget this movie, partially because of these actors. Listen, I think this is an extraordinary movie for the times we're in right now. This is a movie that really works for everybody. It's something that you can go in, you can learn about forgiveness and redemption. You can see how someone who, committed a crime and did something wrong, is able to at the same time kind of make amends, and also figure, you get to learn about sort of what's at that core. And I think seeing this movie at this time in the theaters is a way for people to come together, learn about forgiveness, and ultimately find a way to bond together and hopefully kind of get some joy out of it, understand grace, understand sort of forgiveness, and ultimately have a great night at the theaters.
Derek Cianfrance. All I have is the experience of making it, and he's a director that I wanted to work with for a long time. There was a lot of grace in this film, and I thought it was a very human, beautiful story, and I knew that with Derek's sentiment and the way he likes to see things, it would feel very alive. And so he made a movie that really speaks to the heart and humanity in a really beautiful way, I think. Yeah, the cast is, working with Chan, Peter, I love. Peter and I were born in the same hospital in New Jersey, so we're tight. I think they're going to feel good, just good inside. I think that's kind of what you feel after this movie.
Well, Derek and I are old friends. I've known each other for a really long time and wanted to work on a project together. And this idea kind of came across Derek's desk, and he and I started to talk about it. And then we started to interview Jeffrey on the phone in prison, and just kind of picked up momentum and started to roll. It is definitely a story that you couldn't make up, so it's one of those things where the truth is definitely stranger than fiction, and it doesn't take the normal, I wouldn't classify it as having a specific tone or genre. It really just is its own thing. There are funny moments, there's a love story, there are, explosions and, running from the cops and all kinds of things like that, so it's really a lot of everything. I think ultimately it is a story about redemption and about forgiveness and about accepting people no matter how big their mistakes are. So, I think that's the message underneath all that.
It's actually a relief. We waited 20 years for this, and I'm finally happy that our story is out there for everyone. It's amazing. He chose very well, and she's done a great job bringing out my Southern charm and my good heart. Yes, they did a great job. Because it has the real people, and I know Derek is all about the people and the place, and Charlotte was the only place to have it. Just having the real people in it just makes it so much more unique and so much more heartfelt. He spent years working with Channing and Jeffrey Manchester to really cultivate it and, understand his behavior and the way he thought and the way he moved and the way he talked, and they got it right. They got it right.
Sometimes and often, truth is stranger than fiction, and this is just one of those movies where you really wouldn't believe it if it didn't actually happen, and that makes the movie that this is like a movie that people used to make. It's like a throwback, and not enough people make these kinds of movies anymore, and so I was just so excited to be part of the group that was like, let's go make a movie, let's go make like a real movie that people used to make, and so that's why. I think that we are in a time that's so divisive, and there's so much like tragedy and heartache around the world, and I think what we need more of is some forgiveness and some grace, and this movie really errs on the side of showing a complicated character, a person that makes mistakes, that is currently still paying for those mistakes, but also shows the humanity of that person, and I feel like that's the kind of story we need right now. Channing, there's nothing like landing the perfect actor for a role that you've been living with and developing, and it was always meant to be him, and so it was just so great that we got him. I don't think anyone else could have played Jeff, because he did all these like terrible things, but he also really did give people their coats before he put them in the freezer, and you have to have a human being that has the kind of warmth and heart that somebody like Channing has, and so he just brought all of that to this character. I don't think that there's another actor that could have embodied this, and also I'm not sure how many actors would be as committed as he was to really embodying Jeffrey the way that he did.
I had been a big fan of Derek's and Fritz's movies for a really long time, and I read A Place Beyond the Pines years ago, and I was just like, who is this director? I want to work with him. And then, of course, Channing, who I worked with on I Got to Recognize Your Saints, and Kirsten Dunst, who I have the biggest girl crush on ever. I was like, this is perfect for me, and this is about a guy who's like hiding out at Toys R Us. It's like the most like nostalgic thing for me ever, Toys R Us. It's like it was a big thing in the 90s for me, so a lot of great elements. Yeah, a lot of directors don't have rehearsal anymore, because it's like there's not enough time or not enough money, and they don't make the space for that. And it's really nice to work with a director who cares about that, because during that rehearsal you find, things that work within the relationship. And so we had the opportunity to do that. It was me, Channing, and our daughter. We got to go bowling together, and even that stuff just made us more relaxed on the day. I think it really rides a really great balance of being really funny and fun, but it has a lot of levity too. It's about a good guy with a good heart who makes a lot of bad decisions, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. These are really difficult times, and we're all doing what we can to provide, and it is what it is.
Well, first and foremost, I got to sit down and meet Derek, and he was just incredible. He's such a force of nature in terms of his artistic vision, his talent, his craftsmanship as a filmmaker, so I was excited for that. The cast was exceptional. That was a huge draw. Channing, who does not disappoint in this film at all. He's really quite exceptional, along with Kirsten, who is just fantastic. Actors who I respect, people who really enjoy the craft of storytelling, of art making. Pete Dinklage, LaKeith, Peter Dinklage, LaKeith Stanfield, Juno Temple. Ben Mendelsohn, who I love. It was just an embarrassment of riches when it came to the story, and that it had this heart, but also a heartbeat, if that makes sense to it, that I thought was really exciting, an incredible story, and it felt like one of those films that we all used to see and make, and it inspired me to want to see those films again. I think the twist of the film for me was the pursuit of right, and for everybody in the film, you're really watching everybody trying to get life right, and then realizing that it's a lot harder than it seems, whether that's with love, whether that's carving a new path for yourself, whether that's how to exist within your workspace and environment. People are really trying to get it right. And then I think also the other part about the story that was interesting was, who do we call a bad guy? How do you define the bad guy? Because the bad guy is Robin Hooding, but then you come across some other characters who are doing some not so great things in their own station, and I think it really pushes and pulls against that in an interesting way. I think the thing that I hope most that audiences take away, that we are not our mistakes. We're not just our mistakes. I think that's probably the greatest thing.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and comment on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to be notified when new videos are released.